In the dusty outskirts of Ouagadougou, something extraordinary has happened. On land once dismissed as marginal, bulldozers and cement trucks rolled in. Foundations were laid. Roads carved into the earth. Entire neighborhoods rose almost overnight. There were no press releases, no NGO banners, no international aid convoys. Just engineers, masons, and planners working with military precision. The world didn't notice until aerial footage began circulating across local channels. What it revealed was startling. Burkina Faso was building a city. But this wasn't just any city. It was a radical rethinking of what it means to care for your people. The center of it all stood Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Known for challenging the traditional playbook of African leadership, this time he wasn't confronting foreign troops or economic sanctions. He was facing a quieter threat: internal collapse caused by displacement. Burkina Faso has one of the fastest-growing internal displacement crises in the world. Over 2 million people have been forced from their homes due to terrorist violence, climate change, and economic abandonment. They flee to cities unequipped to shelter them, crowding into fragile camps made of plastic sheets and scavenged wood. It's a crisis that rarely makes headlines, until now. Rather than treat the displaced as a burden, Traoré made them his priority. And instead of appealing to the international community, he ignored it altogether. The first phase of the project includes over 12,000 permanent homes, with full infrastructure in place: roads, electricity, water lines, and digital utilities. These homes aren't hidden in remote corners or pushed to the outskirts. They are the city. Eyewitnesses described the site as more like a military base than a construction project. Precise, coordinated, and deeply intentional. There were no foreign contractors, no UN logos, no endless waiting for donor approvals. Just local workers, uniformed planners, and rising rows of modest but well-built homes. Inside Traoré's administration, the project is referred to as a civilian fortification. To them, a home isn't just shelter. It's a weapon against chaos in a region beset by conflict, displacement, and foreign interference. Traoré sees housing as the front line in the battle for national stability. By relying on state-owned enterprises, military engineers, and newly trained local contractors, the project bypassed the usual traps: donor conditionalities, inflated budgets, and bureaucratic delays. Most of the contractors had never worked on anything larger than local houses. Today they're building an entire city. Critics abroad may question the speed or cost, but no one can deny the ambition. In a country often labeled as aid-dependent, Burkina Faso is doing what many wealthy nations hesitate to try: constructing a city from scratch for those who have nothing. But this is more than a housing project. It's a political statement, a social revolution. Traoré didn't just commission buildings. He redefined national identity. The displaced are not being warehoused, they're being rooted. Residents of this new city are given legal deeds. They aren't refugees or temporary squatters. They are landowners, citizens, stakeholders. The criteria for receiving a home go far beyond displacement. Widows of fallen soldiers, disabled citizens who can no longer work traditional jobs, veterans, youth-led households where teenagers raise siblings alone, even undocumented families, those without birth certificates or ID, are being verified through local networks. Oral testimony and neighborhood consensus are enough. Because Traoré understands that displacement isn't just about losing a roof, it's about losing self. 6 years in a tent makes a child forget what home even means. A man who cannot house his family loses more than his income. He loses dignity. This city is an answer to that trauma. It's not charity, it's psychological reconstruction. So what kind of city has been built? Step into Traoré City, and it's not the buildings that first strike you. It's the silence. The quiet order of a system that works. Solar panels gleam on rooftops. Freshly paved roads carry electric buses. Digital meters blink in modest living rooms. Everything is wired for the future. Community cores anchor every neighborhood. Within a 10-minute walk, residents can reach clinics, schools, markets, and water stations. Accessibility isn't an afterthought, it's embedded. Wheelchair ramps, handrails, flat walkways, all standard features. And transport. No combustion engines. From day one, the city runs on solar-charged electric buses. No fumes, no traffic snarls, no wait for retrofitting. Because this isn't a retrofitted capital, it's a clean slate city. one not burdened by colonial infrastructure or foreign dependency. The most revolutionary element is beneath the ground. Engineers have installed green water systems, subsurface irrigation channels that capture household greywater and funnel it toward farmland around the city's edges. These perimeter belts will grow maize, okra, and sorghum, enough to feed tens of thousands. A city that feeds itself in a region ravaged by hunger. Every brick used is made locally, using compressed earth block technology developed by Burkinabe engineers. It's low carbon, sustainable, and affordable. No imports. Window designs reduce indoor heat. Fiber optic internet is delivered not by foreign companies, but a new public telecom venture, entirely state-owned. This wasn't the work of foreign experts. It was drawn up by young Burkinabe architects, engineers, and agricultural scientists, many of whom had never received government contracts before. Today, they are building what some call Africa's first fully sovereign smart city. And the most important part? The displaced helped design it. Before blueprints were finalized, planners visited displacement camps to ask people, what did your village have that mattered most? How far should the school be from the market? Where should the mosque sit? The city wasn't drawn on a whiteboard. It was drawn from memory. Even governance has been reimagined. Each neighborhood will elect local councils, with reserved seats for youth and women. Mobile legal clinics will provide conflict mediation. Customary law meets modern jurisprudence. Traoré City isn't a replica of Paris or Dubai. It's something new, a Burkinabe blueprint. And its message is spreading fast. Across Africa, governments are watching. Some are quietly asking, if Burkina Faso can do this, why can't we? In traditional development models, African nations are cast as recipients. Progress comes through grants, loans, and IMF policy packages. But Traoré has rejected this model entirely. No World Bank, no EU oversight, no USAID grants, just state funds, African hands, and African ideas. This makes Traoré City not just a humanitarian success, but a geopolitical threat to the old order. Behind closed doors in Brussels, Washington, and Paris, silence reigns. Not because they don't understand what's happening, but because they do. This is a direct challenge to the architecture of aid, dependency, and externally managed development. What happens if Niger, Mali, Chad, or even Nigeria start copying this model? What happens if African cities are built without debt, without donors, and without foreign supervision? It could break the logic of the entire aid industry, a system where Africa must be managed, not empowered. And yet, while Western capitals remain quiet, others are watching closely. Chinese state media has praised the use of local materials and independence from Western financing. Russia sees a potential partner in Traoré, one unaligned and sovereign. Even Turkey, through its development agency TICA, has shown quiet admiration. Still, Traoré has aligned with no bloc. Burkina Faso, he says, will not become anyone's project. And that neutrality, firm, unapologetic, and rooted in local control, is beginning to feel less like a rebellion and more like a blueprint for the continent. Already we're seeing the ripple effects. In Niger, transitional leaders are studying the model to assist communities displaced by war. In Mali, early reports suggest military engineers are scoping land for similar people-first infrastructure. In Guinea and the Central African Republic, youth activists are calling for their own cities of dignity. This isn't imitation, it's inspiration. Because what Traoré has tapped into isn't just a housing gap, it's a hunger for sovereignty. For too long, African infrastructure has been designed around GDP, foreign investment, and extraction. Roads lead to mines, ports serve exports, and housing is built to attract developers, not shelter the poor. But Traoré flipped the script. He built a city not for profits but for people. And he didn't wait for permission. There were no feasibility studies by European consultants, no approval from the World Bank, no multi-year rollouts managed by Western NGOs. Just action. And that action has created more than a city, it sparked a movement. On social media, videos of the project are going viral. Young Africans are analyzing maps, blueprints, and design choices. Urban sovereignty is becoming a trending term in African academic circles. Universities from Lusaka to Kampala are launching competitions for student-designed cities. Radio stations in Accra and Addis Ababa are asking, what would it take to build one here? Even the African diaspora, African Americans, Afro-Brazilians, Afro-Caribbeans are paying attention. For them, this isn't just a Burkina Faso story. It's proof that Africa can lead. That dignity doesn't require aid. That modern doesn't mean Western. But for the movement to grow, it must survive pressure. Already, there are signs of quiet economic retaliation, diplomatic cold shoulders, and scrutiny of Burkina Faso's financial policies. Because if more countries follow Traoré's lead, refusing debt, building people-first infrastructure, and cutting off foreign-led urbanism, what happens to the industries built to manage Africa's poverty? That's why this city matters. It's not just about shelter. It's about proof that housing doesn't have to be a luxury, proof that a government can serve its poorest citizens first, proof that Africa doesn't need to wait. If one city can rise from Burkina Faso's soil without permission, then 100 more can rise across the continent. And if that happens, then Traoré hasn't just built a city. He's built a revolution.